please. We're going to use it. Who needs it? Because trust me, everybody's going to need it because we're going to get to that in a little bit. Nicholas, this is on.
Yeah. Just need it with yourself.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. Paper and pen or pencil, doesn't matter. And we'll get to our use of it. All right. Does everybody have their notes app, paper, pen, something they can write down? Good. All right. So I'm going to move on. Let me ask you something. You're about at the age where you start thinking about this. What do you want to be when you grow up? Now, some of y'all might not know this. Maybe, you're of a certain age where you don't have to think about that yet. Well, others might. I know as soon as I got into high school, you had to start thinking about that, which puts you around the age of 14, right? So, Katie, you were the first one, sorry, in the back to raise your hand quickly. What do you want to be when you grow up? A pediatrician. Does everybody know what a pediatrician is? It's a doctor, yes, but a specific doctor for children, right? For kids. Okay, a pediatrician. Who else thinks they generally know what they want to be when they go ahead? Whew, I should have been sitting down for that title. That's pretty loaded, but it also is a type of doctor, right? But that deals with psychology, the mind, and in particular, you said for the criminally insane, for the extremely difficult, I would say, among us. Yeah, okay, that's very commendable. All right, so we've got a psychologist, a pediatrician. What else? Cybersecurity. I know the influence is there. Yeah, Dad. All right, that's great. Okay, cybersecurity. That's what you want to be when you grow up. Anybody else? Give me one more. Forensics scientist. Okay, man, there's a lot of like high-end professions here. Like, what about a gas station attendant? No? Okay. Right? Okay, so that's what you want to be when you grow up. What does it take for you to get there? All right, I'm not God. I can't hear everybody at one time. Wait, okay. Let's go in order, all right? Pediatrician, what does it take to get there? Okay.
I have to get my associate degree in psychology, then go to med school. I have to take some different places working with police force or in a psychiatric hospital to get residency and things like that.
So we're talking about college education, which for some of y'all probably not aware, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Raise your hand if you have hundreds of thousands of dollars ready to spend right now, right? So that's one of the things it takes. It takes the actual education. Got to study. Got to do well. Okay, all right. What else? Cybersecurity. Go. You need college. All right. So everybody needs college so far, right? You need a computer, I bet, right? Some skills with that. Okay. All right. College, a computer, right? What? Forensics in the back. Chemistry. Man, I got a C+ in chemistry, and that was only because I liked the girl that sat next to me. Otherwise, I probably would have failed. Man, chemistry is hard, but hey, look, some people, they have to learn that in order to use forensic psychology, right? You're talking about to examine evidence, not like forensics that examines like finances and stuff like this, right?
Yeah, evidence.
Okay. All right. So we got some folks working with the cops, some folks working with the kids. Aiden, depending where you go, the route of security, you might work with both, right? Okay. What does it take to get there? All right. So we realize that it takes a lot to get there, right? Right. What if I told you, Aiden, you're going to be a cybersecurity person, right? When you grow up, here's a Bible. Everything you need to do to be successful in cybersecurity is in there. Read it and go be cybersecurity expert. You think that would work? And why do you think? I'm not asking easy questions today, just so y'all know, right? Why do you think? Because computer coding didn't exist in antiquity, right? When the Bible was written. So how are you going to learn about cracking codes, right? And breaking beyond firewalls, right? Uh, in the Bible. Isn't that weird, right? Okay, so it takes the Bible, maybe, but it takes a couple of other things that we might need. All right, so what does it take to get there? We know it's going to take money, it's going to take education, it's going to take a computer, it's going to take a lot of things, right? Okay, let me ask this a different way then. Who do you want to be when you grow up? It's a little bit different question, right? Who do you want to be? So, in other words, what kind of person do you want to be? You want to be a doctor or or a psychiatrist or cybersecurity or whatever it is, a teacher, right? Plumber. It doesn't matter what you want to be. That's what you want to do. But who do you want to be when you grow up? Who do you want to be when you grow up? Give me some feedback. The best version of myself. What does that mean?
Happy, healthy, in all ways, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically.
Whew, that's a long list, but I don't know if you could hear that. Happy, healthy, mentally stable, well-rounded is a term that people might use, right? Okay. That's who you want to be when you grow up. Generally a good person, right? Okay, who do you want to be? Anybody else? Who do you want? Did anybody say I want to be a total jerk? Right? Like in every epic story, right? There's a villain. I want to be Darth Vader, right? No, okay. Right? Right. So does somebody grow up and they say when they're, 8, 10, 14, 15 years old, I want to be the villain. Like who wakes up and puts their feet on the floor and says, I want to be the worst person known to humanity? Ah. You- see, right? Right? So there is a question of now this is the term that's used. You may hear this, right? It's called nature versus nurture. You ever heard of that phrase? Nature versus nurture. This is what you're talking about. Is are you born that way or are you made that way? Right? And ultimately, I think we'll come to realize that it's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of both, and we'll come to, and we're going to get there a little bit later. Oh, my screensaver for work, so pardon the doctor stuff. Right? Right? So we understand that what it takes to get there is a certain list of things, right? And that's for what we want to be when we grow up. But then who we want to be, these are two different things, maybe, right? I want to be a good person, right? I want to exercise my faith of moral character, right? A stand-up guy, do the right thing, this kind of thing. And what does it take to get there? So we start to examine that. Well, the what and the who and the how of life, okay? That whole process, that whole journey, right? Because you guys understand that to get there, whether it's what you want to do or who you want to be, you can understand that's a lengthy process. You're gonna go through your whole life. And there's a lot involved in that process, right? I mean, we would agree with that, right? A lot of education, a lot of interaction with people, a lot of hardship, maybe if you're dealing with sick kids or criminally insane, right? Uh, a lot of difficulty, a lot of good when you help somebody, heal a kid, help a criminal, right? Break free from somebody who's trying to break in, right? Okay, these are positives to what we do. Okay, so we want to understand that this whole process, right, in our life is all a part of our own personal formation process. Okay? That's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the concept of personal formation. Okay? Personal formation. Everybody, whether we choose to accept that as a reality or not, is formed somehow, right? All of us are formed, whether by choice, because of things we do or say or engage in, or not by choice, things that had nothing to do with us and we're still are who we are, where we are, because of no fault or choice of our own, right? It's all part of our formation process, forming ourselves into educated doctors and workers, or forming ourselves into better persons in this world, right? the best version, right, like you said, of who we want to be, right? Personal formation, okay? And I want to talk about today how we can engage that process actively, right? That formation process is happening with every single one of us. I don't care how old you are, every single day for the rest of our lives until we go to be with the Lord, right? And so, how can we be active participants in that process, all right? So, personal formation, you know me, I'm going to give you a lot of definitions and things like this, okay? So, personal formation is often understood by believers in the context of discipleship. Now, James, I think next week may be talking about discipleship a little bit more at length. Not to steal your thunder there, James. And he may change the subject, that's his discretion. But when we talk about personal formation as believers, we're using the term, you guys have heard the phrase, right? Discipleship, the term discipleship. That's a very biblical term, but it's also it's a worldly term used for other contexts, but we use it in the term of following and becoming like Yeshua, right? Discipleship is a lifestyle, the lifestyle of following and becoming like Yeshua. Following and becoming like Yeshua, right? Personal formation is the journey of personal becoming. That is, who you were, who you are, and who you will be, right? Now, I know I'm a little bit older, so I have the luxury of years to look backwards and say, man, the guy I was in my 20s, right, is not the same guy I am today, for the better, let's say. And you don't have to be very old, but you could still look at that, right? I mean, you might be 10 years old and you say, man, I used to crawl and wear diapers and now I'm toilet trained, right? So you know you've grown, you've evolved, you've improved, right? You've been formed. I know it's kind of a small example, but this is all part of your personal formation that is in large part indicative of the whole formation of you as a person, mind, body, spirit, soul, right? Personal formation is a journey of becoming who you were, who you are, and who you will be. And it's our job as active participants in that process to identify who we were, who we are, and who we will be or hope to become, right? What do you want to be? Who do you want to be? These questions we asked at the onset of this discussion. All right. The process, this is another definition for personal formation, is the process of being formed from the inmost dimension in such a way that your natural expression becomes an expression of genuine moral character. So this speaks to what we said a second ago, right, about who you want to be. Nobody says when they grow up, I want to be a jerk. I mean, most of us might have those moments where we're a jerk, right? So, hey, but you don't actively say, that's what I want to become. That's the person I want to be, right? You want to be the type of person that from the inside, from your moral character on your inside, right, it's expressed outside as a good person. In as believers, we say to be like Yeshua, right? To be loving, to be kind, to be self-serving, right? To be giving. I don't know, I got to shut off my screensaver, sorry. Right? So it's an expression of genuine moral character. When we talk about personal formation, this is some of the impact, right? When we're engaged in this process, it impacts our choices, it impacts our perspective, how we see the world, how we see things around us. It impacts our efficiency, how well we do stuff, and it impacts our interactions, right? Our choices. This is just some technical research. You can quote it if you like and fact find if you want to, but it impacts our choices because it leads to better decision making, right? When we're actively engaging our personal formation, it leads to better decision making. It allows us to see things from a perspective of others, practice self-control, work creatively and productively, and experience pride in ourselves and our work, as well as general self-esteem. That sounds a lot like what Katie said when she said the best version of yourself, right? Efficiency, it makes us better at our jobs, better communicators in the workplace, and enhance our self-confidence and job-related well-being. And our interactions, it can make us more proactive, boost acceptance, and encourage positive self-development. Personal formation, right? When we're engaged in this process, it's going to impact all these areas, our choices, our perspective, how we see, our efficiency, how well we do something, and our interactions, right? Our relationships and our interactions with others and the world around us, right? Where we're driving to at the end of this is going to be, how do we engage that process actively, right? But so these are some on the front end, some of the outcomes, right? Some of the byproducts of engaging this actively, right? So real quick, intentional, I call it intentional personal formation, is then personal formation that is the process of looking inward, upward, and out, right? What does that mean? Inward, you look in yourself. Why am I the way I am? How am I the way I am, right? Looking at who I am. And then you look upward. Of course, the world says you want to find a higher power, right? Something above yourself, something that's greater than yourself. Right now, they're co-opting the gospel message, which says God is greater and above all of us. Okay, so we want to find not the higher power, but the highest power, right? God, the Father, the God of the Bible that's expressed in the scriptures, right? The God of, as we say here, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, to become your God, right? So we look upward to God and we look out, meaning to others, to the world around us, right? How can we be active participants, right? And personally formed to impact the world outside of us. Okay, we're going somewhere. Stick with me, right? So how do we become active participants in this process? This term is a German philosophical term, right? And it's called Sitz im Leben. It means place in time, right? So these are some of the examinations that we are going to undergo as, well, people in general, right? But as people of faith, to start to understand how we're formed and how we're going to continue to be formed, right? So remember, the question is, what do you want to be and who do you want to be, right? At the beginning of this, and how do you get there? Well, these are some of the ways that you get there, right? Some of the examines that we can use to get there, right? The situation, this is the situation in which you were born. That's beyond your control. Your family tree, your epoch, that means like the era, the year, era that you were born, your race, gender, geolocation. So, for example, uh, if you were born in 1700 instead of 2000, I don't know when your birthdays all are, but let's just say 2000-ish, right? In the 2000s, and you were born in the 1700s, do you think that your experience of the world would be different? Like how you understand the world, do you think it would be different? Right? Why? Yeah. I mean, we're talking about what, 400 some odd years, right? It would be different because there's a lot of change, right? Matter of fact, if you were born to a lineage who's very wealthy, maybe prestigious, right, in politics, or if you were born in another country, geolocation, meaning where in the world you're born, is also a big part, right? If you were born in another country to a family who was royal, a king or something like this, right? That would certainly change how you're formed, right? Because you're of royal lineage, literally, not just like biblically, oh, we're sons of the king, right? And God makes us sons of the king. No, I'm talking about like literally, like you are in line to the throne, right? Do you think that would change how you're formed, the type of person that you are? Do you think you'd have a higher mindset about who you are and how you think, right? Race and gender is another one. Look, if you're a woman born in, let's say, 2024, right, growing up in our current culture, if you're a woman born now, and you were a woman born in 1850, do you think you would have different views about yourself, self-worth, your role, equality to men, right? Women in 2024 are still getting grossly underpaid for doing the same exact job as a man. Right? So, Aiden, you want to become cybersecurity? There's women that get hired for doing the same in many contexts, and they don't get paid the same. Why is that? Because they're women. Now, our current culture is working to fix that. But if you were born 200 years ago, well, probably you may not be doing much work anyway, because your role as a woman was relegated, say, to the home and kids. But if you were working, you certainly would not be seen as above a man, right? Because of how the pecking order in our society was. Whereas if you're born in 2024, you have a greater sense of equality, right? Gender equality that we've mined out in our culture, right? So you want to understand that if you're trying to engage in the process of personal formation, to do so involves understanding your family lineage. I'm only touching on a little bit of it, but your lineage, your race, your gender, your where you're born, your geolocation, all of this kind of thing. You think I don't appreciate the fact that I enjoy a lot of racial privileges as a white male in this country? That if I'm driving and a cop's behind me, who's more likely to get pulled over, me or a black guy? In 2024, not me. You think that's going to frame how I interact with authority, how I understand my interactions, say, with police, how I feel about myself when I'm reading things in the Bible, for example, that you're beautifully and wonderfully made, and yet there's parts of this whole world that hate me because of my color or despise me because of my privilege, right? All of this is going to feed into your uh, formation, right? And identifying it and understand it is going to speak volumes into how we grow in our faith and who we are as the best versions of ourselves. Okay, concurrent timelines. These are some of the things I've talked about before. You have people, media, and events, right? So what do you want to do? You want to identify the people that have been influential in your life. Maybe your parents, they're obviously first. Your teachers, friends, co-workers. Probably some of y'all don't have jobs yet, but co-workers or fellow classmates or something like this, right? People have been influential. Media, books, movies, I'll say social media, YouTube videos, things like this that you've watched or seen in the media that have influenced you. You're like, you know, because I read that, because I saw it, I've changed in how I understand things, or I've had that to shape my views, right? Events. If you were born before 9/11 or after 9/11, how do you think that you're formed as a person? Heck, if you were born before or after this Israeli war, what do you think is how is that speaking to who you are as a person and how you support or don't support the Jewish people or the Palestinian people? All of this is important to identify so that we understand how we're being formed, right? We've got to identify our lists, I call it, right? Our playlists, our watch lists, our wish lists, and our to-do lists, right? So think about what is it taking, right? And remember the questions that we're asking at the onset of this, right? What do we want to be? Who do we want to be? And what does it take to get there, right? And if we're not actively participating, we might just not even realize that we're getting swept away by things that are forming us without even our consent, right? To a certain extent, right? So look at our playlist. We got our playlist, watch list, wish list, and to-do list. Let's think about those in terms of, are they helping us to get where we want to go and be who we want to be? Our playlists, what's on our Netflix or our Hulu or what is it, TikTok, right? Or YouTube playlist, or what are we watching, right? What are we listening to? Playlists in terms of music, right? What kind of songs are we listening to? What are the lyrics of those songs, and how are they influencing us? I mean, there's people who could listen to a Taylor Swift song and cry and be like, "She's speaking right to me," you know? And is that influencing who you are and how you are, right? Playlist, watch list. Again, what are you watching? Look, I'm just going to share an easy example for me. I love watching the NFL, right? But the NFL very often, and this is a strike on them, the NFL often signs these players to multi-million-dollar contracts who are also part of litigations and lawsuits for, let's say, beating their girlfriends or getting arrested for drug possession, right? But they work out a deal and they're technically not in jail, so they can still play. And by watching, am I endorsing a league that turns an eye and is okay with, like, you know, bad moral character and paying them millions of dollars to do it? Hey, I'm a Buffalo fan. One of the other guys just got arrested last week for beating his girlfriend. It's a second account. And he signed to a $120 million contract when he signed last year, right? Am I one that's going to wear his jersey but you know what? I can't stop watching the NFL Because I love the game. It's exciting. And if you're really taking this formation process seriously, you're going to say, Josh, you're not going to, I'm going to say, Josh, you like watching the NFL. There's a lot wrong with the league. And you, by watching it, is fostering its support and growth. Why do you still watch it? Right? Why do you still watch it? What is that saying to me? Am I giving a pass? How do I reconcile that? These are all things that are going to be good for you to examine. Again, your to-do list, right? Your to-do list. Are you working so hard that you have no time for rest, right? Are you a workaholic? Your to-do list is a mile long. Or maybe it's too short and you're lazy. That's another problem you might have to work with, right? But you examine these things, right? Your playlist, watch list, wish list, to-do list. These are your influences that are forming who you are and what you want to be. Right? Then there's the association of five. I've said this before. I read this once, and I kind of think it's worthwhile to share. Right? You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Right? And when I first read that, I was like, wait a minute, no, chill. Now, some of y'all might not have a choice in who you spend the time with because your parents might dictate that, but not for everyone, right? And not all the time. So you're the average. So take the 5 people you spend the most time with. Just think about that for a second. The 5 people you spend the most time with, and think, if you averaged all 5 of those people out, I'm the average of that. You know, that how good they are, how spunky they are, how bad they are. I think I can find myself right around average of all of those, right? So that might mean, upon examination, that you may have to change some of your friends, right? You may have to change some of your friends. I don't know, if you're homeschooled, you might be like, man, all I do is hang out with my family. It's my brothers, my sisters, my mama, right? You know, like, I can't change that average, right? Hey, listen, maybe it's a good average, right? But it's worth examining, because then it circles you back to your sits and Laban, your place and time, and you say, Lord, thank you for placing me amongst my siblings and parents as such a significant influence. It's a good average. I'm not saying it's a bad average. I'm saying it's worth examination, right? And then there's a connect with creation. That's a simple one, but an important one. My wife is one. She could get into all this technical stuff, but take her to a park or a mountain range, or take her outdoors and she's smelling the greenery and the sun is on her cheek and she's walking outside. I'm a city slicker. She gets out there and she connects with God. She connects with God through nature, through creation, right? And so sometimes we can be active participants in our own formation by connecting with the world around us, right? Okay. So this is what I want you to do. Grab the papers that you have. If you're using technology, write it down on your notes, right? And understand that this examination is what's going to enhance your prayer life. It's going to help your relationships, right? It's going to help you identify things in your relationships. It's going to enhance your sensitivity, right? You think if you're watching more movies with, gunfights and fist fights and, immoral activities versus, maybe watching none of that at all, or something that's more wholesome, do you think that's going to change how your attitude is in general in life? Right? My mother used to use the phrase garbage in, garbage out. I used to hate that growing up. I like rap music, Ma. They cuss a lot, right? And it used to drive me nuts when she said that. But then as you start to grow, and you start to grow in your faith, you start to understand that it quite really is a truism. You reap what you sow. And if I'm sowing constant, say, violent talk, right, and that was typical in 90s rap music, right, what's my language going to be? What's my attitude going to be? How am I going to think about women when they're objectified in the songs? Things like this, right? So these are examinations that are important for you to undergo, because they're going to speak volumes into how you are formed, right, and how you engage the process of your own formation, right? So take a look at this, grab the paper. I know that we've only got a little bit of time, and I don't want to keep you here forever. But go down this list that you can see. I hope everybody can see it pretty good. And write down each of the categories, right? So you don't have to write the German necessarily. Just write place and time is the first one. Place and time. The next one is timelines, lists, the number 5. We're just shorthanding it here, and creation. right? Place and time, timelines, lists, 5, and creation, right? And I want you to really start thinking about this, right? Because you start writing down in the first one, right? Where was I born? You're born in the United States of America. If you were born in another country that was averse to the gospel, it might be a lot harder to be a believer. Coming here would be something that would be in some countries is illegal. And we can do it even when we don't want to, and our parents drag us here. Right? I got one chuckle. Right? Okay. Again, your race, your gender, right? The time that you're born. The internet exists now in your world that did not exist years back. Do you think that changes how you're formed, who you are, who you're becoming, right? I have the luxury of growing up kind of on the fence in that, where I was born when there was no internet, and by the time I grew up, there was internet. So I have a little bit of the dual influence there, kind of hybrid growing up, but you guys don't, right? And so does that change how your influences and uh, how do you become good cyber citizens, right? Digital citizenship is the phrase, right? Concurrent timelines. Start writing down some of the people, some of the media, books, movies, etc., that influence you and that had an impact. I remember when I was in high school, I read Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. Good book, right? And it really, and particularly the clergy character that's in there, really gave me a sense of inspiration. And I know that's, again, it's not the Bible, but it was something that really influenced me. You know, I lived through 9/11. I went out my front door and saw all the smoke in the sky and wondered what the heck happened watching the news. That will shape how you see the world and how you interpret good and evil. What did that say to my personal formation, right? Jump to your playlist, watch list, wish list, right? Just jot down. What are you listening to, right? What's the last 3 songs that you have on your device that you were listening to? What's the lyrics of those songs, right? What's on your watch list that you're viewing? What is your wish list? What do you hope to get? A wish list, I kind of borrow from things like Amazon, right? So maybe you guys aren't independently shopping online yet. But if somebody says, "What do you want for Hanukkah?" Right? Or something, right? I want, and you got 10 things that you want or something. Or what do you want for your birthday? And there's 500 items that you've listed, right? Well, why do you want those? Why do they have value to you? Why are they meaningful? And this is the important piece. What does that say about who you are? Right? Again, the association of 5, we can laugh about who those 5 might be. But write them down, right? Who are the 5 people you spend the most time with in the last, let's say, month? Let's just keep it there. In the last month. Right? Who are the 5 people? And again, I'm not trying to read nobody's laundry here, but right, okay. All right, put whoever the 5 are, I don't care. And do you think that if you averaged out all of those 5 people, their character, their behavior, their attitudes, their words, their actions, their everything, do you think that you said if I could average out all of those 5 people, I would want to be that person? Listen, this is me not answering for you, right? But if the answer is no, why? If the answer is yes, why? And how, again, how can we be active participants in the process of formation regarding the association of the 5? And then, of course, connect with creation. As believers, we understand that God made the world that's around us, right? It's not just nature, but it's nature. And so, is there a way that, as part of our formation to becoming the best version of ourselves, as far as formation is concerned, more specifically as believers, right? Becoming followers and emulators, right? That we follow and become like Yeshua. How is our interaction with the creation that God has given us, right? That's one of the first things that God did when he created humankind, right? Man and woman, is he put them amidst his creation and gave them a commissioning to interact with the creation. So that's a vital part of our formation. How are we interacting with that? Or are you like me, kind of a city slicker? And for the most part, I'm like, I'm okay with the outdoors. I'd rather go to like some inner city and see a skyline, a rooftop scape or something like this. But there is a time where you've got to unplug, right? And interact again with the world that's around you. These are your lists of interactions, right? Things that you're doing to become and identifying to become active participants in the process of formation, right? Again, all things that we want to identify so that we know how can we actively participate in our personal formation, which is, as believers, the ultimate goal, to follow and be like Yeshua. Yeah? All right. I've said enough. My time is nigh. David Taylor's going to be looking for me on drums. Let's pray. Father, I thank you for today, and I pray that with good seed, it would fall on good soil and grow up to a fruitful harvest. I thank you for every life that is represented here and pray that you would encourage every single one of them by your Spirit to bring them closer, Lord, to a love for you and a knowledge and relationship with Yeshua the Messiah. I thank you for this time and this place, and bless it now. Amen. Amen.
Thank you.